But, hello, hi, a very happy good evening. So this is Krishnaveni and we've been talking about the story of life on earth, and that's biology. So welcome to my session. So this is part 2 of disorders of the human physiology. So come on guys, please do like, share and subscribe. So please do lend us your support. So please do tell your friends that here we are talking about the entire syllabus of NEET. Okay. So we have already completed part 1, meaning the first few chapters we have already discussed. Hello Vishal, hi, a very happy good evening. So thank you so much Vishal for joining my session today. So we are just left with 2 chapters today, and these 2 chapters, especially the last chapter, has a lot of disorders. So quickly let's go through all the disorders, because when you solve questions, this is where you get stuck. So what is Cushing's disease? What is Conn's disease? Because all this we have not discussed in the lecture, right? Yes, hi Antonia B, a very happy good evening. So thank you so much for joining my lecture today. So please do like, share and subscribe. Okay, so shall we move forward? Yes. So can you see me? Yes, can we go forward? Okay, so here we talk about it. So the disorders of human physiology. So what are the chapters that we were talking about? Just give me a minute. Okay, so talking about the chapters of human physiology, so we were discussing all these chapters. So first we started off with digestion and absorption. So do you remember the disorders that we spoke in digestion and absorption? Yes, what were the disorders? Tell me quickly. So it is a quick recap. So what were the disorders? So first we spoke about your jaundice. Then we spoke about vomiting. So you have to remember the vomit center here. Then we spoke about diarrhea. Then we spoke about indigestion. Then we spoke about constipation. Yes, are you able to recollect what happens in each of the disease? So do you have the tabular column that I gave you? Yes, so these are the 5 diseases under this topic, digestion and absorption. So the next chapter that we went forward was your breathing and exchange of gas. So in breathing and exchange, so what are the diseases that we spoke about? We spoke about only 3 disorders. The first one is your, what was the first one? It was your bronchial asthma. So what happens in your asthma? The bronchus gets, the alveoli, the bronchus gets blocked. So that is what happens in your asthma. So after that, yes, you have written, all right, Antonia B. So after that, you have emphysema. So that is caused due to smoking. And then you have your chronic respiratory disorders, that is due to the inhalation of dust. Yes, you're perfectly right, Vishal. Okay, so this is about breathing and exchange of gas. So then we went on to talk about your body fluids and circulation. So what are the disorders that we had here? Yes, what was the first one here? So first one was your atherosclerosis, or it is known as coronary artery disease. Then we spoke about your angina. Then we spoke about your myocardial infarction or heart attack. Then we also spoke about your heart failure. So these are the conditions that we spoke about in your body fluids and circulation. So then we went on to talk about your excretion. So what are the disorders in your excretion? So here I have the disorders of excretion. So the disorders of excretion are 4 types, okay? So the first one started with uremia. So what happens in case of uremia? You have malfunctioning of your kidneys. When your kidneys do not function properly, it means it is not filtering properly. It is not kidney failure. So kidney failure is different, malfunctioning of kidney is different. So in malfunctioning of kidney, the kidney does not filter the blood properly. Okay, so malfunctioning of the kidney, which means to the accumulation of urea in blood. So in urine, you excrete urea, right? How much grams of urea you excrete? 25 to 30 grams of urea you excrete. Right? So if the urea gets accumulated in blood, that is toxic. So that is what happens in your uremia. But when you have uremia for a longer time, if urea gets accumulated in your blood, so that leads to renal failure, complete failure of your kidney functioning. Because in turn, the same blood is entering inside your glomerulus. So once again, it will be highly problematic. So that leads to kidney failure. So what is the solution for kidney failure? So only one solution you have, that is kidney transplant. So with transplant, you have another problem. What is it? That is rejection. So graft rejection is happening, right? So your body will not accept anyone's kidney. So the kidney should be from a close relative. The donor has to be closely related to the individual. So this is your kidney transplant. All right. So this is what happens in case of your kidney failure. So these days kidney failure is more common and kidney transplant is becoming highly in demand. Okay, you're not getting donors, so that is also one reason. So if a person's kidney does not survive, so you can go for artificial kidney, that is your dialysis. But even this is not possible or feasible for a long condition. It is only possible for a small time period. Yes, the donor should be of the same blood group. Yes, the RH should be same. Yes, perfectly right. So you can go for dialysis, but this is only for a short period. It is not for lifelong. Okay. Yes. So what happens in dialysis? From the patient, so if we have a patient A, so from the patient's veins, we take out the blood. Okay. So from the veins, we take out the blood, and what do we add? The moment the blood comes out of the blood vessels, you add coagulate. So it clots, right? But it should not clot. If it clots, then we'll not able to filter. So we had anti-clotting factors, anti-coagulating factors like your heparin. Okay, so the blood should not clot. So even when you donate blood to the blood bank, so that blood should not clot, right? So that pouch which collects blood, so that has anti-clotting factors. So your blood does not coagulate. Okay, so you have anti-clotting factors like your heparin. Then it passes through a fluid known as dialysis fluid. So dialysis fluid contains similar constituents like your plasma of the blood. Okay, so that such that it maintains a concentration gradient. So concentration gradient in your pipe that carries the blood as well as in the fluid. So there is some concentration of components in your dialysing fluid which is similar to your plasma. Thus a concentration gradient is maintained between both, but this dialysing fluid does not have urea. So urea is easily rushed out of the blood, okay, of the incoming blood, and the filtered blood goes back to the body. So before you add it to the body, you take out this anticoagulating factors and then release it back into the body. So this is dialysis, and this will not work for a longer time period. Okay. Okay. So can you repeat again? Yes. So you take blood from the patient's body. Yes. So when you take blood from the patient's body, so when the blood comes out of the blood vessels, immediately the blood will start to clot. So that is the normal mechanism. But if the blood clots, then you cannot filter it. Thus what you do? You add anticoagulating factors or anti-clotting factors like your heparin. Yes, then the blood moves through what is known as a dialysing fluid. Okay, so this dialysing fluid will contain concentration of components, certain components like your ions, amino acids, similar to the constituents of the plasma of the blood. Okay, yes. So now this constituent will not contain urea, but the incoming blood will contain urea. So why it has to contain some components of the plasma is that to maintain a concentration gradient. So only if there is a concentration gradient, the form of filtration will take place. Okay. So here there will be low concentration, here there will be high concentration. Thus a concentration gradient has to be maintained because your urine has to be concentrated, right? So in that case a concentration gradient will be maintained. Thus you have some concentration of components similar to your plasma in the dialysing fluid, but the dialysing fluid lacks or absence of urea. So urea will not be present. Thus the urea from the incoming blood will be directly eliminated out. So after filtration it will be pushed back into the patient's blood, but before adding into the patient's blood vessel, but before adding that you will remove these clotting factors. Okay, yes, is this much clear? So Vishal, did you understand? So do you have any doubts? So shall we move forward? Vishal, clear now? Yes, fine. So moving forward back to that. So after that you have another disease known as renal calculi. So renal calculi is the kidney stone that we were talking about. So kidney stone is your renal calculi. So here you have deposition of insoluble mass of crystallite salts, which is also known as oxalates. So why do you have kidney stones? Why do these get accumulated? Because when you don't drink enough water, so that passage gets deposited. So when you drink water, the renal tubule is washed off with water. So when you don't drink water, so all the salts get accumulated there. So your kidney stone is caused by dehydration. So that's why you should keep yourself highly hydrated. Okay, so this is about your renal calculi. The next one is glomerulonephritis. So whenever it ends in itis, it means it is inflammation. Okay, so this is inflammation of the glomerulus of the kidney. So you have your glomerulus. So the glomerulus is enclosed by a cup-shaped capsule that is known as Bowman's capsule. Okay. How will you come to know if you have kidney stones? It will cause you severe pain. So towards your abdominal side, whether this side or this side, on either sides of your tummy, it will cause very severe pain which you will not be able to tolerate. So that is how you will know that is kidney stone. Unless and until they give you a painkiller, you will not be able to tolerate it. So that is how kidney stones are caused. Okay. So these are the disorders of your excretory system. Moving forward to the next disorder. So this is the disorders of your locomotion and movement. So here we have these set of disorders. The first one is your myasthenia gravis. So it is an autoimmune disorder which affects the neuromuscular junction. So what is a neuromuscular junction? So the motor neuron that is carrying the signal from the brain which reaches the muscle, which is going to generate axial potential. So this junction between the neuron and the muscle is known as neuromuscular junction. So your own immune cells will attack this neuromuscular junction, and that disease is known as myasthenia gravis. It is a type of autoimmune disorder. It is an AID. Okay, so this causes fatigue, it causes weakness and paralysis of the skeletal muscle. So all these are the symptoms of your myasthenia gravis. Fine. So moving forward, the next one is your muscular dystrophy. So what happens in muscular dystrophy? So you have a defect in your dystrophin gene. So dystrophin is the largest gene in your body. So it has so many base pairs. So that is the longest gene, the dystrophin gene. So this leads to the progressive degeneration of the skeletal muscle because it is a hereditary disease. So this gene, there is a mutation in this gene, thus the dystrophin protein is not properly produced. If the dystrophin protein is not properly produced, your contractile proteins will not be functional. So that is progressive degeneration of your skeletal muscle, and it is the only genetic disorder. This is an autoimmune disorder, this is a genetic disorder. I hope you know the difference between what is an autoimmune disorder and what is a genetic disorder. Yes? Okay. The next one is tetany. So what is tetany? So tetany is rapid spasms which causes wild contraction. So tetany is rapid spasms that causes wild contractions in the muscle due to low calcium in the body fluids. So why do you have rapid contractions? So during a normal contraction, your calcium should bind to troponin, right? But if I have less calcium, so troponin is half binding to calcium, half binding to my actin filament. Thus, it is not allowing my actin and myosin to bind properly. So the cross bridge formation is not formed properly. Thus, it is trying to contract, but the contraction is not happening fully. So it is trying to pull itself or forcefully. So that is why you have wild contraction. Thus, you had rapid spasms. So rapid spasms means wild contraction. Yes, you have the accumulation of lactic acid. You're perfectly right. So this is called as tetany. So tetanus is different, tetany is different. So tetanus is caused by a bacterial infection. Diphtheria tetanae. So you have been given tetanus vaccine, right? So it is because of a pathogen. So only for pathogens you give vaccines. Only for the disease caused by pathogens you give vaccines. For all these disorders you don't give vaccines. Yes, I hope that much is clear to you. Only for diseases which are caused by pathogens you are given vaccines, not for all diseases. So the next one is arthritis. So once again, if it ends in itis, it means inflammation. It is the inflammation of your joints. Okay. So when you have inflammation, the swelling in your joints, that is arthritis. Okay. Magnesium deficiency. Okay, so then osteoporosis. So osteoporosis is an age-related disorder because for your bones you need calcium, right? So in bones, bones are made up of calcium salts. So if you do not have calcium in your body, that makes the bone weak. So thus it causes osteoporosis. But why it is said age-related is because in females you have this condition known as menopause. So when you have the end of menstrual cycle, so during menopause, you do not have the ovulation happening. So if there is no ovulation, there is no development of follicles, thus there is no production of the hormone estrogen. So estrogen is also important for maintaining the calcium levels. So when there is a drop in the estrogen, then your menopause will happen. So when there is a drop in estrogen, the calcium will come down and thus it will lead to osteoporosis, as a result of which the bones will become very weak. Okay, so the next disorder is gout. So gout is the inflammation of the joints. Arthritis is also inflammation of joints. Yes, Vishal, I have questions at the end. Okay, so gout. Actually, arthritis is inflammation of joints. Gout is inflammation due to the accumulation of uric acid crystals. When uric acid crystals are accumulated, so remember, uric acid is a type of nitrogenous waste that has to be excreted. If it's not excreted, so that leads to gout. Okay, so this is the disorders of the locomotion and movement. So now talking about neural control and coordination, that is brain disorders. We wouldn't have discussed this in the lecture. So these are some of the common terms from your previous year's question paper that I picked out. The first one is Alzheimer's. So Alzheimer's is irreversible progressive brain disorder, okay, that slowly destroys memory and thinking skills. So in Alzheimer's, you will not have memory. So you will not know where I kept the keys, where I've kept this bottle, where I've kept the note. So that is your Alzheimer's disease, and your thinking skills reduces. You will not know how to wear a watch. You forget suddenly, all of a sudden. So for all these years, you know how to wear a watch. Suddenly, you will not know how to tie up a watch, okay? So you will lose memory as well as thinking skills. That is because of the reduced concentration of acetylcholine. So acetylcholine is your neurotransmitter So this acetylcholine has to be released in the neuromuscular junction, thus transmitting the action potential to the muscle, the sarcolemma of the muscle, right? So the first one is Alzheimer's. It is an irreversible progressive brain disorder that leads to the loss of memory and thinking skills, and that is due to the reduced concentration of Alzheimer's. The next one is your Parkinson's disease. So this is the nerves that produce dopamine are reducing. So in Parkinson's disease, it is reduced to your dopamine. So dopamine, when it is reduced, okay, so all your love, anger, your hunger, thirst, everything is related to your dopamine. So if suddenly I want to have pizza, that craving is because of the release of my dopamine. So if I have no dopamine, and almost literally emotionless, I have no feelings. So that is your dopamine. So in Parkinson's disease, you will not have any emotions. The one that makes you crave, so that will not be there. So the next one is epilepsy. So in epilepsy, the brain activity becomes abnormal, causes seizures and periods of unusual behavior, sensation, and sometimes loss of awareness. So that is epilepsy. You be zoned out, right? You just cross a road even if a trunk is coming. So you are lost, you're zoned out in some kind of thinking. So that is epilepsy. So when you have very sudden shocks, when you get a sudden news like that, so that leads to epilepsy, okay? We learned in biotech, yes, okay. So the next one is stroke. So stroke is blood supply to the part of your brain is interrupted or reduced, preventing the brain tissue from getting oxygen and nutrients. So that leads to stroke. So in case of stroke, so whenever you feel giddy, so what you should do? So if you are in a crowded place and you feel very giddy because you lack oxygen, you should immediately put your head down so that blood supply goes to your brain, okay? Yes, so stroke is when the blood supply to a part of your brain is interrupted or halted. Fine, the last one is headache, but this is the most common disorder all of us have. Whether we have or not, we say we have headache, right? So you do not know actually if you have headache, but you say, no, I have headache, so leave me alone, right? So this is the most common excuse to escape from. So what is a headache? So head pain sometimes can be difficult to describe, of course. So I cannot describe my headache. You cannot describe your headache. Even now I have headache. You also have? Yes, some portion of my brain is paining. Some portion of my head is paining. I guess I have headache. So if you are in need of coffee, you make up a reason because you have headache, right? Yes, it is so common and it is difficult to describe. So headache is different for different people. Sometimes people who have headache, they start vomiting also. They have digestion problems. They will not be able to sleep. For some people, they have to sleep. Only then it will be fine. Yes, so all these are some of the cases. But some common symptoms include throbbing, squeezing, constant and unrelenting or intermittent pain. So you have pain on the templates, right? Yes, so headache can be due to various reasons. It can be due to sinus, it can be due to migraine, it can be due to normal indigestion, it can be due to stress, etc. So these are the disorders of your brain. So in neural control and coordination, we studied about the structure of your neuron, how your neuron conducts and transmits impulse, and then the structure of your brain. So these are the disorders of your brain. So clear? Have you made a note of it? So shall I move to the next slide or should I wait? Yes, let me know. Should I wait or shall I move on? Shall we move on? Yes? Shall we move to the disorders of the eye? What are the disorders in the eye? Yes, the next part, the disorders of the eye. The first one is myopia. In myopia, you see the objects near to you clearly, okay? But objects far away are blurry. So the image that is comes to you is focused in front of the retina. So the image has to be on the retina. So the normal image that you see in a normal person's vision, the image is focused on the retina. So in case of myopia, the image is in front of the retina. So we can only see the images that are close to you. So myopia is also known as short-sightedness. Fine. The next one is presbyopia. So this is progressively worsening ability to focus on clearly on close objects. So here you can see only far objects. People sometimes cannot see nearby people. They can only see people who are far away, right? So that is presbyopia. So that is due to your far-sightedness, okay? The next one is cataract. So what happens in case of cataract? So cataract is a cloudy area in the lens of the eye. So where do you have the lens? So you have your cornea, you have your lens, then you have your retina, right? So you have a cloudy area in the lens that leads to the decreased vision. So this is called as cataract, okay? So it's enough if you remember these two, but anyways, these two are class 10 portion. They will not ask you in NEET because there are so many other questions that they can focus on in the eye than asking you about what is myopia and what is presbyopia, okay? Yes, so shall we move forward to the next one, that is chemical control and coordination? Yes, have you noted this? All right. So moving forward to the next one, chemical control, coordination and chemical coordination and integration. So what are the disorders here? So first we spoke about your pituitary gland, right? So we spoke about your hypothalamus, but pituitary is your master gland. So we'll start from pituitary. So pituitary has adenohypophysis, which is your anterior pituitary. So this has two portions, that is pars distalis and pars intermedia. Right? So pars distalis produces 6 hormones, starting off with your growth hormone, prolactin, then your thyroid stimulating hormone, adrenocorticotropic hormone, and 2 of the gonadotropins. The gonadotropins is LH and FSH. Yes, mostly they don't ask only, but students always have a doubt in what is myopia and presbyopia. That is why I gave it on my slide. Okay, as such, there is no disorders of the eye that is mentioned in your NCERT. So this is about your pars distalis, and pars intermedia secretes one hormone, that is melanocyte stimulating hormone. So then you have the posterior portion of pituitary, that is neurohypophysis. So this is your posterior. So this produces 2 hormones. What are they? One is oxytocin and the other one is ADH or vasopressin, right? So depending on this, we will talk about. So when you have excess secretion of these pituitary hormones, it is called as hyperpituitarism. Fine. So when you have less secretion, it is hypopituitarism. In general, okay? So first one, gigantism and acromegaly. It is due to the hyposecretion of your growth hormone. So remember Hagrid from Harry Potter? He was a gigantic figure, right? So remember gigantism. So both your gigantism and acromegaly is due to excess secretion of your growth hormone. So acromegaly is an adult case. Acromegaly is much severe compared to gigantism. In gigantism, the person is huge in structure and body design, that is fine. So acromegaly is detected only in the late adult stage and can sometimes become very, very severe, okay? So that is acromegaly. So when you have reduced secretion of growth hormone, that leads to dwarfism. So the person becomes a dwarf. Okay. So the next one is diabetes insipidus. So this is a part of, so this is hyperpituitarism. So this is hypo, this is also hypo. So this is due to the disorder of your ADH or your vasopressin, antidiuretic hormone. So what is the function of ADH or vasopressin? So this causes reabsorption of water from your renal tubules. So this causes the reabsorption of water from your renal tubules. So when you do not have your ADH, so your urine becomes more diluted, so more amount of water passes through. So water is not getting reabsorbed. So that leads to diabetes insipidus. It is a type of hypopituitarism. So did you understand what is hyper and hypo? Yes, so this is about the disorders of your pituitary gland. So shall I move forward? Yes? Noted it down? Okay, so moving forward to the next part. So the next part is based on your thyroid hormones. So when you have increased secretion of thyroid hormones, it is called as hyperthyroidism. Okay, when you have less secretion, it is hypothyroidism. So based on this, the diseases are classified. So first one is hypothyroidism. So when you have less secretion of your thyroid hormones. Yes, Antonia B, what happened? You have a doubt? Yes, do let me know. Should I go to the previous slide? Were you noting down something? Yes, what happened? Yes, Anthony? Okay, so hypothyroidism is decrease in your thyroid hormones. So in case of pregnant women, so when a pregnant woman has a deficiency in your thyroid hormone, okay, so this leads to a condition known as crenetism. So crenetism is characterized by thick lips, protruding tongue, pot belly, that is you have a belly that is protruding out, and low intelligent quotient of the infant. So the infants, those are born, are called as crenetin. They are known as crenetin child. Okay, yes. So when you have decrease in secretion of your thyroid hormones, so here I am talking only about T3 and T4, the hormones that require iodine. I am not talking about calcitonin. Okay, so hypothyroidism, when you have a decrease in secretion of your thyroid hormones T3 and T4, when this condition is present in a pregnant woman, it leads to a condition known as crenetism. So in crenetism, the child is born with thick lips, protruding tongue, pot belly, low IQ. The child is called as crenetin. Fine. So the next one, so the next hypothyroidism in case of normal adults is called as myoxedema. So this is in case of pregnant women. In case of normal adults, when you have decreased secretion of thyroid, it is known as myoxedema. It is also known as sporadic goiter. Okay, so sporadic goiter is sometimes genetic. It moves from one generation to the other generation. So it is also known as Gall's disease. So here you have hair fall, swollen skin. So all that will happen. Okay, so once again, when you have decreased thyroid secretion, in case of a pregnant woman, the condition is called as crenetism, that is going to affect the child. So in a normal adult, when you have hypothyroid condition, it leads to myoxedema. So myoxedema is also known as sporadic goiter, or it is also known as Gall's disease. Okay, so the next part, so simple goiter, so you have sporadic goiter and simple goiter. So sporadic goiter is due to hypothyroidism and it is called as myoxedema. Okay, then you have simple goiter, that is also due to the deficiency of iodine. Okay, so depending upon the severity, it is classified. Fine? Okay, that's fine, Vishal, not an issue. So simple goiter or endemic goiter is once again due to hypothyroidism. So when you have less deficiency of thyroid, it is not a severe case like a myoxedema. So myoxedema is genetic. So simple goiter is not genetic. Fine? So next one is Hashimoto's disease. This is acute deficiency of thyroxine. So this is a type of autoimmune disease. So you continuously have, so for a prolonged time you have decreased thyroid hormones. You are not taking any treatment because constantly your immune cells are destroying your thyroid hormones. Okay, so that leads to Hashimoto disease. So all these are hypothyroid conditions where the amount of thyroid hormone produced is pretty less. Okay, so in hypersecretion, when you have excess amount of thyroid hormone produced, so that leads to your Graves' disease. Your Graves' disease is also known as exophthalmic goiter. So you have three types. You have sporadic, you have simple, you have exophthalmic goiter. So exophthalmic goiter is what? Is due to hypersecretion of your thyroid gland. Okay, sporadic is due to hypothyroidism. Simple goiter is also due to hypothyroidism. Yes, Keshav, so thank you so much for joining my session. Please do like, share and subscribe. Yes, what is the question? Okay, so I hope you have noted this. Yes? Okay, so this is about the hormones of your thyroid. Now going to the hormones of the adrenal gland. So basically you have disorders in the adrenal cortex, the hormones produced by your adrenal cortex. So what are the hormones produced by adrenal cortex called? So adrenal cortex produces a hormone known as corticoids, group of hormones known as corticoids, right? Yes. What is the largest liver of the gland? No, which is the largest gland? Yes, you have given me the answer, that is the liver. So liver is the largest gland and its secretion is the bile. So you have given me the answer. So what do you want me to answer? Okay, so the answer is, why is liver the largest gland? Please retype your first question. So what is gastric gland? So gastric gland is present in the stomach. So gastric gland produces three types of cells that enables the process of digestion in the stomach. Okay, Kashyap? Yes? Okay, so corticoids are of two types. The one that is involved in glucose metabolism is glucocorticoids. And the other one which is involved in mineral reabsorption is mineralocorticoids. So one important glucocorticoid is your cortisol. And one important mineralocorticoid is your aldosterone. If there is hyposecretion of your corticoids, if there is less secretion of your corticoids, it leads to Addison's disease. Yes, so the largest gland of the body is liver and it secretes bile. So gastric gland is a type of gland that is present in your stomach, so which secretes three types of cells which helps in the digestion of food in your stomach. So when food reaches your stomach, it is called as bolus. So it helps in the digestion of your bolus. Alright, Keshav? Yes, did you get it? Okay. So hyposecretion of your corticoids leads to Addison's disease. So here you have, so this is Addison's disease, this is hyposecretion of your corticoid hormone. The next one is Cushing's disease. So Cushing's disease is due to the hypersecretion of your glucocorticoids. When you have more secretion of your glucocorticoid, that leads to Cushing's disease. So Cushing's disease I would not have told you in the lecture. So please make a note of it. So Cushing's disease is the hypersecretion of your glucocorticoids. You have increased glucose metabolism. Fine. So Conn's disease is hypersecretion of aldosterone. So hypersecretion of glucocorticoids is known as Cushing's disease and hypersecretion of your aldosterone is known as Conn's disease. So both starts with C. So you might get confused. So Cushing's disease and Conn's disease. So please remember the same. Yes, so please make a note of it. So this is about adrenal hormones. Actually, we are done with all the chapters of physiology. So only in class 11, only plant physiology is remaining. So we are talking about transport and plants now. So Monday, Wednesday, Friday, I teach class 12 portion. So Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, I teach a class 11 portion. All right, Kashyap? Fine. So now talking about insulin, when you have less secretion of insulin, that leads to diabetes mellitus. So talking about pancreas, so pancreas has islets of Langerhans. So this islets of Langerhans has two types of cells, alpha cells and beta cells. So alpha cells secretes your glucagon and beta cells secrete your insulin. So glucagon increases blood sugar level or blood glucose levels. Thus it leads to hyperglycemic condition. So the function of insulin is just opposite to your glucagon. So glucagon decreases blood glucose levels. Thus, it leads to a condition known as hypoglycemia. So, if you have a deficiency or less secretion of insulin, it leads to diabetes mellitus. Meaning, in diabetes mellitus, you have hyperglycemic level. You have increased blood glucose level. So, that is hyperglycemia. So, insulin is a hormone secreted by the beta cell of islets of Langerhans, which is present inside your pancreas. So, pancreas is a heteroclined gland, meaning it has both endocrine nature and exocrine nature. The endocrine portion of the pancreas have a group of cells known as islets of Langerhans, which has two types of cells, alpha and beta cells. So the beta cell produces insulin. Insulin brings down the blood glucose level. Okay, so when your insulin is not secreted properly, the blood glucose level is very high, right? So it leads to diabetes mellitus, which is a hyperglycemic condition. So here you have type 1 diabetes mellitus and type 2 diabetes mellitus. This occurs in individuals who are less than 40 years. So here the beta cells are lost. So here there is no proper secretion of your beta cells. So that is type 1 diabetes. So type 1 diabetes is known as insulin dependent diabetes mellitus. So this is known as insulin dependent diabetes mellitus. So this happens in individuals who are less than 40 years old, where your beta cells are completely lost or it reduces. So the next one is type 2 diabetes. So this is insulin independent diabetes mellitus. So this happens in people who are above 40 years of age. So gradually the beta cells get reduced. So that is not a very early condition, right? Yes, hello, good evening. So thank you so much for joining my session today, Shubham sir. Okay, so this is an English channel, so we only explain in English. I am really sorry. If you want, I can reduce my speed. Alright, Kesha. Udaya Nandini, yes, a very, very happy good evening. So I guess you're new to my session, so kindly like, share and subscribe. And thank you so much for joining my session today. Okay, so this is type 2 diabetes. Alright. So both come because of the hyposecretion of your insulin, and then due to hypersecretion you have hypoglycemia. So when you have hypersecretion, what it has? So it decreases the blood glucose level very much. So thus you have less blood glucose. So hypersecretion leads to hypoglycemia. All right, is this much clear? Yes. Thank you so much. So which means you have been watching my videos. So thank you so much. Okay, so moving forward, so this is all about the disorders. So diabetes mellitus is because of hyposecretion of insulin. When you have less secretion of insulin, that leads to diabetes mellitus. Okay? Yes? So shall we solve the questions and end the lecture? So it must be a long day for you also. So shall we go forward? Okay. So question number 1, goiter is caused by the abnormal functioning of pancreas, adrenals, pituitary, thyroid. Thank you so much. So that is a very great compliment. So thank you very, very much. I am always grateful to you. Mellitus. Okay, so in terms of this, okay, I understood. So hyposecretion is, okay, so when you have less secretion of insulin, so your blood glucose condition is not reduced. So less secretion of insulin means high concentration of glucagon. So it is hyperglycemia. So hyperglycemia leads to diabetes mellitus. Okay, Antonia B? Yes? Okay, so moving forward to question 1. So goiter is caused by the abnormal functioning of pancreas, adrenals, pituitary, thyroid. So thyroid. Yes, Antonia B, you're perfectly right. Okay, others got it? Yes, so shall we move forward? So question number 2, parathyroid hormone deficiency in man causes. So PTH is your parathyroid hormone produced by your parathyroid gland. So what does your parathyroid hormone do? It increases your blood calcium levels. Okay, so if it increases your blood calcium levels, it is known as hypercalcemic hormone. So if you have a deficiency in this PTH, then what will happen? If you have a deficiency in this, what will happen? Yes? If you have a deficiency in your PTH, what will happen? So I told you the function of PTH. So PTH is your parathyroid hormone. So this leads to the increase in blood calcium level. Thus, it is a hyperglycemic hormone. So when I have a deficiency in my PTH, what will happen? So it leads to hypocalcemia, decreased blood calcium level because I have a deficiency. Yes, you're right, Antonia B. So the next one, question number 3. So crenetism is due to the abnormal secretion of thyroid stimulating hormone, thyroxine, calcitoxin, parathyroid hormone. Hi Vishal, you're back. So very good. Yes, so crenetism is due to the abnormal secretion of thyroxine, that is your thyroid hormone. So thyroid stimulating hormone is secreted by your adenohypophysis. So this is different. So please don't get confused. Okay? Both. It has a deficiency in your thyroid. Okay? No, not thyrocalcitoxin. It is due to the deficiency in thyroid. So it is only T3 or T4. Okay, so yes, this is B, very good. So moving forward to the next question, exophthalmic goiter is caused due to the hypersecretion of adrenal, thyroid, parathyroid, thymus. No, TSH is thyroid stimulating hormone. This is secreted by your adenohypophysis. But your crenetism is due to the hyposecretion of your thyroid hormones, not because of your pituitary hormones. Antonia B, don't make the mistake. The answer is thyroxine. Okay, that is T4. Yes, exophthalmic goiter is caused due to the hypersecretion of adrenal gland, thyroid gland, parathyroid gland and thymus gland. So which one is the right answer here? Yes, question number 4. Exophthalmic goiter is caused due to the hypersecretion of thyroid. Yes, very good. So these are the types of question that comes from this chapter. So then in Hashimoto's disease, symptoms develop like hyposecretion or hypersecretion. So Hashimoto's disease is an acute disease, right? When you have prolonged condition of which of the following, you have Hashimoto's disease. It is a type of autoimmune disease, right? So that causes Hashimoto's disease is due to hypersecretion. No, T3 and T4 is your thyroid hormone. TSH is thyroid stimulating hormone which stimulates your thyroid to produce your T3 and T4. So THS is secreted by your pituitary. So it is a hormone of your anterior pituitary. So this will act on your thyroid gland to produce your T3 and T4. Okay? So Hashimoto's disease is due to the hyposecretion of your thyroxine. So basically your T4. So when you have prolonged hyposecretion, that leads to Hashimoto's disease. It is a type of autoimmune disease. Okay? Yes. So question number 6. So Cushing's disease is caused by disturbance in fat metabolism, excess of ACTH secretion by pituitary, under secretion of insulin, none of the above. Yes, you are right. Yes, Vishal, you're right. Yes, tell me. So, Cushing's disease? See, no, insulin is not related to Cushing's disease. So, what I told you, when you have increased secretion of your glucocorticoids, So which is a type of your adrenal cortex hormone. This leads to Cushing's disease. So justify the answers here. So eliminate the options. No, no. Disturbance in fat metabolism? No. So Cushing's disease is due to increased glucose metabolism. Okay, it is not due to fat metabolism, right? So excess of ATH secretion by pituitary. So what is ACTH? ACTH is adenocorticotropin hormones. So when you have more amount of ACTH, you have more amount of your corticoids being produced. It produces both glucocorticoids as well as mineralocorticoids. Maybe mineralocorticoids are reduced by feedback mechanism in that person's individual, but glucocorticoids increases. So it can be your option B. Okay, yes, this makes sense. When you have excess of ACTH, it leads to excess production of your corticoids. So it can lead to either one of the diseases. Okay, so in that question, in that thyroid question, if there was an option without T4, if there was an option saying increase in secretion of TSH, yes, that can also be the reason. So depending on the options, you will justify. Yes, Kashyap, you were right. Okay. So the last question, I guess I have only 7 questions because I was running short of time. So over secretion of glucagon causes tetany, diabetes insipidus, acromegaly, glycosuria. So over secretion of glucagon. So glucagon is produced by the alpha cells of the islets of Langerhans of pancreas. So alpha cells of glucagon increases blood glucose level. So thus it leads to hyperglycemic condition. Tetany. So tetany is involved in your locomotion. So tetany is due to spasms. So that is due to low calcium concentration. So why does this come here? Yes, glycosuria is the right answer. So glycosuria is when you eliminate glucose in your urine. So ideally glucose should be reabsorbed by your proximal convoluted tubule, right? But when you have increased blood glucose, the glucose comes out through your urine, not urea, urine. Okay, so here your answer is D. So diabetes insipidus happens due to the less secretion of your antidiuretic hormone. Acromegaly is due to increased growth hormone. So I hope you have understood. I have given you an idea of all the disorders. So the next mentee that I will have will be in the disorders. Alright, yes, you were right, Kashyap. So once again, so tomorrow we are meeting at 4 p.m. So this session is at 4 p.m. and we have been talking about human reproduction. So let me complete fertilization and implantation tomorrow. So before that, I will give you a recap of the menstrual cycle. Okay? Yes? All right. My lecture was very useful. So thank you so much, Vishal. So tomorrow we'll meet at 4 p.m. So if you genuinely like the way I taught, so please do like, share and subscribe. So I'm waiting forward to meet you tomorrow. Yes, so the previous okay. So this is at 4 o'clock. This is at 4 p.m. tomorrow. All right. So tomorrow also we are meeting twice, one at 4 p.m. and one at 6:30 p.m. So tomorrow we'll have a syllabus wrap-up session. Okay. So thank you so much for being a wonderful audience. So this is me signing off. So have a great evening ahead. Bye-bye and take care.